Hey guys, welcome back. In today's video, we're going to be talking about how long should you be staying off your property prior to hunting it for the first time. And with this, there's not really a one-size-fits-all answer that will work for everybody. There's a few factors or variables that you need to consider when trying to figure out how long you should be staying off your property prior to hunting it for the first time. But hopefully by the end of this video, you'll have a better idea and understand how long you should be staying off your property. And with this, the first question that you really need to ask yourself is, what are your goals for this upcoming hunting season? Are you just looking to fill the freezer? You're just gonna go out and shoot the first deer that you see, whether that's a doe, whether that's a young buck. You don't really care what deer you're targeting, you're just looking to fill the freezer. Or are you someone that's looking to shoot a buck, but you're not necessarily looking to shoot one of the older bucks, you're just trying to shoot the first buck that you see? If that sounds like you, and those are close to the goals that you have for this upcoming hunting season, then you might not need to stay off your property as long as somebody else. You might only need to stay off your property for about 2.5 weeks prior to hunting your property for the first time in order to achieve your hunting goals. Along the same lines, if you're someone that just wants to kind of get out in the woods, kind of escape from life, just watch deer, and harvesting a deer isn't as important to you, then again, you might not need to stay off your property nearly as long as somebody else. However, if your goal for this upcoming hunting season is to have an opportunity at one of those older bucks in the neighborhood, then you need to stay off your property much longer than somebody who's just looking to, fill the freezer or, shoot the first deer that they see. And the reason is a simple one, but we are going to talk about it anyways, and that's that different deer react differently to human pressure. Doe family groups, young bucks, fawns, they do not like to be pressured. If you spook those deer, they're going to take off. Those younger deer, those doe family groups, they'll start moving during daylight more on a consistent basis, much quicker, again, than those older bucks in the neighborhood. So again, the first question that you really need to ask yourself is, what is your goal for the upcoming season? And depending on what your goal is, that'll kind of determine how long you need to let your property sit. Because those doe family groups and those younger bucks tend to get on their daylight patterns quicker after being pressured, if these are the deer that you're targeting, then you won't have to stay off your property for nearly as long before you're starting to see consistent movement from the deer that you're after. And again, if you're somebody whose goal is to have an opportunity at one of those older bucks in the neighborhood, you are going to have to stay off your property much longer before hunting it for the first time. And if you're on your property before the season, setting stands, putting in a last-minute food plot, doing miscellaneous work, whatever that might be, it's going to take those older bucks in the neighborhood a little bit longer before they start feeling comfortable moving on your property during daylight. So you're going to have to stay off your property a lot longer before hunting it for the first time if you want to see consistent movement from those older bucks in the neighborhood. And again, that's because those older bucks, they do not respond well to human pressure. Here in Michigan, we have a lot of hunters, and I would say overall, the deer herd here is very heavily pressured. I think that by the time a deer hits 1 year old here in Michigan, that deer has either been shot at, or that deer has been with a group of deer that's been shot or shot at. So by the time a deer reaches 1 year old here in Michigan, they do not respond well to pressure. And if a deer is lucky enough, or a buck is lucky enough to get to 2.5 years old, 3.5 years old, 4.5 years old, that deer has kind of run through the gauntlet a few times, and I can almost guarantee that that deer has gotten shot or shot at multiple times. So the last thing that an older buck wants to deal with in heavily pressured areas is human pressure. If they sense human pressure, they're not going to take a chance, and they're going to move in the opposite direction. It's going to take them quite a while before they feel comfortable moving in that area again during daylight. So again, it really just comes back to what your goals are, but if you're someone who's looking to target one of those older bucks in the neighborhood, then you need to stay off your property much longer prior to hunting it for the first time. So we know that we need to be staying off of our property in order to let the deer herd get comfortable moving consistently during daylight, but when can we start looking to hunt the property for the first time? And this is another area where there's not really one right answer. Every property is going to be a little bit different, but for the most part, the day that you should kind of start looking to hunt the property for the first time, if you're after those older bucks, lands around the same time. And for us, the method that's really worked well in helping determine when we should be pushing in to hunt the property for the first time, outside of observational sits, when we're really hunting the property for the first time, the method that's worked the best for us has been using historical trail camera data. We've ran trail cameras on our property for over a decade now, so we have a lot of information going back over 10 years. And one thing that remains fairly consistent when reviewing the trail camera pictures every single season, and even if you go back and look at previous seasons, is that those older bucks, they really don't start moving consistently during daylight until about the 20th of October. Now I say the 20th of October because that seems to be about the average day when we really start seeing consistent movement out of those older bucks in the area. Now every once in a while there might be a year where they start moving on the 15th, and there might be a year where they kind of wait a little bit and you don't see a lot of consistent daylight movement until maybe the 24th of October. But for the most part, we're really focusing on the 20th of October. We circle that day on the calendar, and we really start to look for the first cold front that's going to move through around the 20th of October, because that's when there's a good chance that those older bucks are really going to start moving during daylight. Using your trail camera photos from past seasons is a fairly reliable and very easy method in helping you determine, how long you should be staying off your property, along with when you should be pushing in to hunt for the first time. If you're someone whose goal is to have an opportunity at one of those older deer in the neighborhood, and based on past trail camera photos, you can tell that those older deer don't start moving until mid to late October, then you should not be pushing into your property in early October. Remember, these deer do not respond well to human pressure. And if you don't stay off your property long enough and you push in too soon, there's a good chance that those older bucks are going to sense that pressure, and you're going to essentially be resetting the clock on how long it's going to take them to feel comfortable moving on your property during daylight. Hopefully this helps, guys. If you're someone who's looking to target one of those older bucks in the neighborhood, it is extremely important to stay off your property for at least a month. For us, we stay off our property for about a month and a half prior to hunting it for the first time. The last time we're on our property is around Labor Day, spreading our rye on our food plots, and we are not pushing into those better stands on our property until mid to late October. Well guys, it's going to wrap it up on today's video on how long you should be staying off your property prior to hunting it for the first time. If you guys have any other methods that you like to use to help determine how long you're staying off your property, or when you're pushing into your property to hunt it for the first time, I'd love to hear about it. I know there's some pretty cool collared buck studies out there that show when these older bucks start moving consistently during daylight. If you guys do have any questions, please drop those in the comment section below. I'll get back to those as soon as I can, and we will see you guys in the next video.